I need to keep my Pyxis 12k build as lightweight as possible for some shoots, and the smallest, fastest, lightest lenses that I would find myself using are the Thypoch Simera-Cs. You can fit these stripped down in a Pelican case like a 1510 or even a backpack, my Peter McKinnon backpack. So this is a nice lightweight kit, and these open up to T15, which is nice because the Pyxis needs a lot of light. I've used the Simera-Cs on my Sony cameras in 4K 16:9, but I want to test out how these lenses look at 12K open gate 3x2 on this RGBW sensor. When I was buying photo lenses back in the day, I remember hearing smaller lenses might have trouble resolving higher resolutions. This may have just been a salesperson trying to get me to buy higher end glass, but that's always kind of stuck in the back of my head, and I'm not sure if this applies to cinema lenses. My Sony cameras are 12 megapixels though. The 12K is the equivalent of 80 megapixels, so it's a big difference. Even in like stills photography, 12 versus 80, that's a pretty large difference. And I haven't used these on any large sensors. Being a little skeptical of everything I hear, I want to do these tests myself and see how these tiny little lenses can handle 12K 3x2 open gate. After using my friend Joe's set of Thypochs, I had to give those back, but then I got the 12K and wanted to see how the Thypochs really worked on this sensor. So I reached out to Thypoch if they would loan me these two lenses and the locking M to L mount adapter. And I like this adapter so much, I actually went out and bought the E mount adapter, but I will talk about that adapter in a little bit. But they don't get to see this video before it goes live, and all these words and tests are my own. First off, the main reason I got this camera was to shoot in open gate. The extra resolution and the extra dynamic range doesn't hurt either. I have a project that needs to be filmed in 16:9 and 9:16, so those different aspect ratios are crazy to work with. Shooting open gate in 12K gives me more space to not only reframe the vertical and horizontal, but I can zoom in post really easily. I set up a quick test shot in the studio with the 35mm. I'm able to hold a product in frame for horizontal and vertical at the same time. Then in post, I can zoom around as needed. In the past, I had to use my Sony FX3 and a 24-70 zoom. I was framing everything a little bit wider for the horizontal and vertical framing, and it just like felt a little bit off. Like I just wanted a little bit more vertical resolution. I'm looking forward to using this a little more and just plugging it into AC power and just rigging the top-down setup and shooting at about T8 gets me, I can use the products from like here to here. That was like the test I was doing. So this is the sweet spot, and this is where I'm holding the products anyway. So it's really going to help with that project. A big difference between the Simera-Cs and other lenses is the bokeh. Wide open, these lenses have swirly bokeh on a 16:9 sensor, so more vertical resolution should have more swirl, right? Well, more vertical resolution does give us more bokeh swirl wide open, just because we have more pixels to work with on the top and the bottom of the frame. If you're delivering in 3x2, you will have more swirly bokeh than delivering in 16:9, just how aspect ratios work. Again, it sounds silly to do that, but I didn't know, so I wanted to do the tests. The swirly bokeh is visible wide open, but it cleans up the more you stop down. The bokeh has less distortion at T2, it cleans up a little more at T2.8, and by T4, the bokeh is circular. Here's what the 3x2 open gate frame looks like, cropped down to a 16:9 aspect ratio. While we're at it, here's what the flare looks like at 12K open gate. I also purposely shot this backlit chain link fence so we can see the chromatic aberration here too. These lenses flare really easily when you get a little bit of light down the barrel of the lens. You'll notice the contrast is lifted quite a bit too. There is some chromatic aberration with these lenses, especially wide open. Stopping down to T2.8 cleans it up a little bit, and T4 helps even more. It also seems like a lot of lens flare affects the sharpness of this lens too, especially wide open, and it makes it just have like a softer look throughout the entire frame. This will come down to what your project needs, but if you're shooting more like lifestyle or creative stuff, this could be pretty cool. For clean commercials, you might want to keep light from hitting the front of this lens or just stop it down. The size of these lenses is both a strength and a weakness. It's great because they're so small and light, like you barely notice them on the camera, but it does make adjusting focus a little bit more difficult. If I take this follow focus off, it's actually kind of difficult to adjust the focus on the barrel of the lens since these are so small. The follow focus does help a lot. However, whenever you put the follow focus on and you're kind of like seeing already, if you try to adjust the iris with the follow focus on, you have to like reach over all this stuff and adjust the iris here. I've been just using the follow focus and adjusting iris on the other side of the lens. It's just way easier than reaching around the follow focus. So this kind of like solves one problem, but it creates another. But it's pretty easy to just like use the other side of the lens to adjust the iris. That's how I've been getting around like the difficulty of adjusting focus on the barrel of the lens. The filter threads between the Thypochs are all the same with one exception. All of the lenses have a 62mm thread and a 67mm outer diameter, except for this lens, the 75mm. This has a 67mm thread and a 72mm outer diameter. I have not used this with my matte box. I don't think my MB-T12 has a 67 or 72mm back, like 80mm is the smallest. But I've just been using screw-on filters with these, and it's been working out pretty well. I am using a breakthrough 62mm to 67mm step-up ring for my VNDs, and just using my 67mm VND on the front of the camera, and it's been working out pretty well. So why the M mount? Really quick, I'm sure this isn't a surprise to anyone out there, but if you get the M mount, you can use adapters to go from M to L or M to E for my Sony cameras, and the M mount is way more adaptable. The downside is you have to buy the adapters. It's been said before, but going with the M mount is definitely the move. Before we get into the locking adapter, I want to tell you about today's video sponsor, Artlist. Artlist has over 400,000 high-quality music, sound effects, footage, templates, and more available to use in your personal and commercial work. Artlist also has a suite of AI tools where you can create images, videos, and voiceovers. For their image generation, you can use text to create an image, or upload an image and describe how you want to transform it. For video generation, you can use text to image, or image to video, and select from a large range of different models. They have different versions of Vero, Sora, and Kling. I find myself using AI in pre-production to get my ideas across quickly to clients, but if you like to use AI in your final deliverables, the Artlist license covers your AI videos, images, and voiceovers for personal and commercial use. I love Artlist for their music library, and their tools make it easy to find the song you need. Their filters make it easy to choose a genre, refine your results with mood keywords, then you can narrow down the music by which instruments are used, if you want vocals or not, or adjusting the BPM. They also have a huge selection of LUTs, footage, and tools for your favorite editors to help speed up your edits. If you'd like to check them out, Artlist is offering 2 free months if you use the link in my description. Artlist has multiple plans ranging from music and sound effects, their AI suite, footage and templates, or everything with their Artlist Max plan, so you can choose which plan fits your needs. Thank you, Artlist, for sponsoring this video. In my previous Simera-C video, I mentioned that the adapter I was using was a pretty cheap adapter and it had some play in it. Most cheap M-mount adapters have some kind of like a loose tolerance because they're so small and they're not locking. So I was using a focus motor and there was a ton of movement in the lens mount. The Thypoch locking adapter fixes that issue though. This locking adapter is really secure. I haven't had any issues with my lens moving when I'm using it. Thypoch sent me the L-mount version, but I actually bought the E-mount version so I could use these lenses while I have them on my Sony cameras. I really like how this locks into place as well. One difficult thing coming from a larger like PL adapter to this smaller adapter is that it's a little more difficult to like actually use these to lock and unlock them if you have like a lot of stuff on your camera. I'm only saying this because I have a handle on one side and my follow focus on the other. So sometimes getting to the back of the camera, like the mount of the camera, can be difficult. I understand a smaller mount has smaller handles, but that was the one gripe I wrote down when I was using this at first. I got over it pretty quickly, but I did write it down, so I wanted to include it. A quick run through of all the different aspect ratios with the Pyxis on both of these two lenses. Here's what cycling through open gate, 16:9, 17:9, 2:4:1, and 6:5 looks like. I know this is a bit of a strange test here, but I wanted to know how these lenses looked in the different aspect ratios on this camera. With the Pyxis 12k needing a lot of light to be properly exposed to get the lowest noise floor possible, I found myself using these lenses at T2 or even wide open a lot. Stopping down these lenses definitely cleans them up though. I was curious how sharp these lenses would be in the corners on open gate versus 16:9. I shot a sharpness chart at 75, but the 35 minimum focus was too far away. So we're kind of getting like a hybrid white wall chart on this one. For the 35mm, we can take a look at the chart and the wall behind it. The center is sharp wide open and the edges sharpen up around T4. There's vignetting wide open, but it goes away at around T28. For the 75mm, it is sharp in the center wide open and sharp on the edges by T2. There's a very slight vignette wide open, but it's almost gone by T2 and completely gone by T28. I was very surprised at the performance of the 75mm. One downside of these lenses is the focus breathing. It is noticeable here, and here is the open gate focus breathing test. I think open gate makes it look even more noticeable, especially if you're delivering in 3x2. Again, this is one of the downsides to these lenses in my opinion. I think this is one of the sacrifices that had to be made to make these lenses so small. I do not do large focus racks from infinity to minimum, but I do small focus shifts when I'm filming, and I am able to notice the focus breathing with these lenses. It's one of my least favorite part of these, so I try to keep the focus racks to a minimum, or if I have to focus rack, I try to do it slowly so it isn't as noticeable. When it comes to minimum focus, there are no changes from the last video I made. My opinion is that the 28 and the 35 are a little bit far away. The 21 is okay. The 50 and 75 are easier to work with, but this is still worth mentioning here in case you didn't see my other video. I'm kind of surprised, kind of not surprised at how these lenses performed. They performed almost identical in 12K open gate as they did on my Sony cameras in 4K 16:9. I don't know where I picked up the bro science like smaller, cheaper lenses have a difficult time resolving on higher resolution sensors. This may be total BS or a testament to how well made the Simera-Cs actually are. In my testing, the Simera-Cs can definitely hang with the 12K sensor. There is some sharpness reduction. If you have a lot of light coming down the front of this lens, it does kind of lift the contrast, but controlling the lighting or just stopping down really sharpens these lenses up. I love this combination for keeping things small and lightweight. Right now, if I wanted to shoot at T15 or 1.4, I would have to use the Artlist. I absolutely love this lens and I want to use it for every project I can. But for some projects, it just doesn't make sense, and it makes sense to have a smaller, lighter camera. And that's where the Simera-C comes in, weighing next to nothing, and it can open up to T14. It's good to have another set of lenses that if the right project comes along, immediately I know which lenses to reach for. I think these lenses performed really well, and I was surprised at how well they did, especially for their size. I don't know how this little mount here can cover full frame, but it does, and I'm pretty happy about it. If you want to dive deeper into these lenses, check out my other video I posted here where I compared them to the Artlist Luster, and the Vespid ones. I'll leave that on screen now. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.